In Spain, people eat late, very late. With dinner usually starting at 9:30 in the evening at the earliest, it is probably one of the countries with the latest meal times in the world. Not only dinner, but also other things are traditionally done a bit later. Work doesn't start properly until about 9:30 in the morning and then somewhere between 7 and 8 in the evening. And if you try to get lunch before 2, you're often served with a closed kitchen. Many people believe these late times can be attributed to the Mediterranean climate. And although it's partially true, if we compare Spain to bordering Portugal or nearby Italy, they're still comparably late. The real reason might surprise you, because the answer lies with the country's former dictator. This time in history, why Spain eats late because of fascism. Let's start off with a quick overlook at the traditional hours of meals and work in Spain. I purposefully say traditional because as times are changing, so is Spain. In many of the bigger cities and more international communities, you might see different hours from these, but in the smaller towns or more traditional communities, a day would look something like this. Work starts at 9 and goes on until 2. Before work or during the first hours, you might have a small breakfast, consisting of a pastry such as a croissant or an ensaimada, or maybe a small sandwich and some coffee with milk, for example. For those who had an early breakfast, say around 6 a.m. because they had to get up early, around 11 there will be a second breakfast moment. This is sometimes referred to as the almuerzo or merienda. Between 2 and 4, people tend to have lunch, the biggest meal of the day, usually a multiple course lunch of warm and fresh prepared food, comparable with what in other countries would pass for dinner. Work also stops between 2 and 5 for lunch and rest, also famously known as the siesta. Many traditional shops and businesses will close between these hours. That's when you'll see a lot of closed shutters around the city. Somewhere between 5 and 8 there is another time for merienda, mostly for the kids who have just come back from school. A snack of some sort consisting of a pastry, some fruit, a small sandwich. Work typically ends around 8, and anywhere between 9:30 and 11 or even 12 on the weekends, people have their dinner. If we compare this to Portugal and Italy, countries which are both geographically and culturally close to Spain, this is relatively late though, especially dinner, with Portugal having dinner between 7 and 10 p.m. and Italy between 8:30 and 10:30. The real reason for Spain's tardiness is this man, General Francisco Franco. Not only general, but also dictator of the country and a fascist. He ruled the country after winning the Civil War in 1936 until his death in 1975. And besides doing many gruesome things, he also moved Spain into a wrong time zone. If we take a look at this map, we can see what I'm talking about. You see, Spain used to be in another time zone. We can see how the UK and Portugal are currently observing the UTC+0 time zone, while Spain is on UTC+1. If we were to draw a line from the UK downwards, however, we can see how it would be more logical to include Spain on that time zone. And actually, it once was. Time zones are bands of 15 degrees longitude in which time and daylight coincide in the most logical way for that specific location. Each time zone is 15 degrees because if we multiply them by 24, the amount of hours in a day, we get the full circumference of the Earth, 360 degrees. So Spain once sat in its correct band, the one where the UK and Portugal are still on today. That one is the most logical to its amount of daylight. But remember that fascist dictator? Well, in 1940, a few years into his power, he changed the time zone, scooping up to the right. Why? Well, to be on the same time zone as his allies, Nazi Germany and fascist Italy. At that time, Spain was in a state of ruin and devastation because of its civil war. Daily life was incredibly difficult, getting used to a new reality of fascism and trying to climb out of a hole, whilst the rest of the continent had just plunged itself into the Second World War, so lightly put, people didn't pay too much attention to the change of time. They literally kept on doing what they did just 1 hour later. 1 p.m. lunches became 2 p.m. lunches, and 9 p.m. dinners became 10 p.m. dinners, etc. Spain never went back to its original time zone, and therefore lives on the wrong time until today. Something which, according to several studies, the wrong time zone affects overall health because of poor sleep schedule. In 2006, a committee was even started, the National Commission for the Rationalization of Spanish Schedules, aimed at turning back to the correct time zone. In 2016, the then PM Mariano Rajoy presented a plan to change Spanish working schedules from 9 to 6 to be more in line with the rest of Europe. Part of that plan was even to change the time zone back to its original one, sparking a heated debate all over the country. Up until today, no updates on the plan are known, but the topic finds its way into public discussion every now and then. So there you have it. One man's politics leave their traces deep into the lifestyle and culture of people nowadays. What do you think? Should Spain turn back to its original time zone or not? Leave a comment with your opinion on the matter. Also, if you'd like to know how two Dutch businessmen started the Spanish Civil War, or how your ideas about the flat earth are wrong, feel free to subscribe to our channel and check out those attached videos. In the meanwhile, I hope to see you next time in history.